Antonio Brown possibly has had the most elusive career any NFL player has ever witnessed. Quite possibly more than any wide receiver or even skill position player I've seen ever in my life. Antonio Brown has had the ability, since he came into the league really, to take any play that many people think, nothing really is going to happen, and turn those into 20-yard splash plays, even long 70 to 80 plus yard touchdowns. Not only has Antonio Brown been possibly one of the most elusive players in NFL history, he has been a little bit of an elusive addition to many teams around the league. It seems like for the past couple of years, there has not been a single organization who has not been able to not really cater to the needs of Antonio Brown, but be able to put up with the antics that come with Antonio Brown himself. The saga that has been Antonio Brown over the past 15 months has seen everything from him being traded to the Raiders, him being cut by the Raiders due to many arguments that he had with Mike Mayock, and many issues that were between him and the organization in general. All that leading to him being cut by the Raiders, leading to him being signed by the New England Patriots, and then he had the sexual abuse charges placed on him, and therefore later he was cut by the Patriots as well. Since then, we haven't really heard much from Antonio Brown aside from the occasional workout video or whatever he ends up tweeting. It's been a bit of a quiet 15 months. I should actually say it's been about a quiet 9 months from Antonio Brown. Which, everything being said, he should have been staying quiet these past 9 months. He literally has done nothing but hurt his career by his many social media mishaps with pretty much every single one of his teams, and just other problems that he's presented throughout these past 15 months. The name Antonio Brown has been growing in conversation, and it's because this is the NFL. We forgive players for whatever they do. The name Antonio Brown has been growing in conversations because it's time for people to start looking at him with his new team, where he should sign to play the 2020 NFL season. There have been many rumors and speculations ever since free agency started. I remember seeing news headlines after Tom Brady went to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers about Tom Brady trying to sway the opinion in the Tampa Bay front office to sign Antonio Brown, which Bruce Arians shut down pretty much immediately. He basically said, we have too many wide receivers, and they do. They have Mike Evans, they have Chris Godwin. They've got a lot of depth already to the wide receiver position that adding a superstar would more than likely hurt what they have in that locker room. There's been teams thrown around that are pretty much void of much talent at the wide receiver position. Teams like the Eagles, teams like the Broncos even, I've heard being thrown out. And one team that's been gaining a little bit of steam lately, and to me sounds like a pretty good fit for both Antonio Brown and the team, is the Seattle Seahawks. I would argue that the Seattle Seahawks, since Russell Wilson took over the starting quarterback position, the Seattle Seahawks have been probably the most competitive team in the NFL. Since Russell Wilson took over as quarterback of the Seattle Seahawks, they have not had a single losing season. In fact, the worst season that they've had with Russell Wilson is a 9-7 season, and that was probably Russell Wilson's worst year of his career as well. Like I said, the Seattle Seahawks throughout the years have been known as a consistent 10 to 12 win team, and they've been probably in the most competitive division as well. They've seen two teams go to the Super Bowl in the past, three seasons now, 2 or 3 seasons. And the Arizona Cardinals have not been a joke the past couple of years as well, especially now that they have Kyler Murray. However, the Seattle Seahawks are definitely behind when it comes to the talent level. I would even argue they might be battling with the Arizona Cardinals in terms of having possibly the worst talent in terms of both offensively and defensively in their division. And that's not really to disrespect what the Seattle Seahawks have. I mean, what their team has between Russell Wilson, Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, even defensive stars like Bobby Wagner and Shaquille Griffin, they've got some solid team. They've got a solid team, and they've got some solid talent. However, when you compare them to the 49ers offensively have a much better offensive line. Their wide receiver core has a lot more depth to it. Jimmy Garoppolo obviously is a worse quarterback than Russell Wilson. That's not really up for debate. But the way he plays within his system, he does the job good enough to where I don't think Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers would really think that they need to have Russell Wilson over Jimmy Garoppolo. I would even almost argue, I actually will argue that the Rams have definitely more talent as well. Jared Goff is a number one overall pick, and their wide receiver core again has a lot of talent. They traded Brandon Cooks this past season, but just comparing what the teams have off last season, they had Brandon Cooks, they had Robert Woods, they got Cooper Kupp. Their defense is also loaded with stars, whether it's Aaron Donald, whether last year it was Corey Littleton, Taylor Rapp came in last year and played a big role. Jalen Ramsey they traded for last season. Marcus Peters played a big role for the team as well, but he's kind of been a little bit of an inconsistent player. But again, I think the story still stays that the San Francisco 49ers and the LA Rams probably have more talent at their skill positions than the Seattle Seahawks do. However, to me, that just goes to show why what Russell Wilson has done for the Seahawks is so monumental for that team. I mean, if you take Russell Wilson away from that team, they probably are at the bottom of the division and possibly at the bottom of the league in terms of their standing. I believe that Pete Carroll is probably one of the best motivational coaches that we have in the NFL today. But again, we don't give him that credit without having such an amazing quarterback in Russell Wilson. And I don't think either of those two players or either of those two individuals, Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll, neither of them are in the position they are without the other. With that, everything being said about the Seattle Seahawks, it seems like the signs are pointing towards the team and the organization looking towards possibly rebuilding after this next season. There are only, I believe, 2 players who are going to be under contract through the 2022 season. That's Bobby Wagner and Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson currently, I believe, has the highest salary for his contract amongst quarterbacks, and Bobby Wagner is not far behind in terms of his ranking in the middle linebackers contract standings. Those 2 aging superstars are really the last 2 remaining relics from the 2013 Seattle Seahawks Super Bowl run, and even from the 2014 team as well. If you look offensively, I mean, it's pretty much void of any single player, whether it's Golden Tate, whether it's Doug Baldwin, whether it's the talent they had on the offensive line, whether it's Marshawn Lynch. There's really nothing left from that Super Bowl team other than Russell Wilson, and I believe Tyler Lockett started his career around the year of those 2 Super Bowl runs. And the same is said for the defense. I mean, the defensive line is pretty much all the way gone. They brought back Bruce Irvin, but I'm not really seeing much coming from that. KJ Wright is still there with Bobby Wagner in the linebacking room, but they've lost every single member of the Legion of Boom, and they've lost a lot of their core guys who were split between defense and special teams or offense and special teams. The core of that team, 3 or 4 of the guys are still there, but they're losing. They've lost a lot of guys over the past couple of years. So right now, the Seattle Seahawks are in a position they don't quite want to rebuild yet because they want to get the most out of Bobby Wagner and Russell Wilson in their last few great years. And the best way for them to get as much out of Russell Wilson as possible for at least the next 1 to 2 seasons is to sign Antonio Brown. Like I said, more than almost any wide receiver I've seen in my life, Antonio Brown has been the biggest splash playmaker of any guy I've seen. The only guy I could compare it to is Odell Beckham Jr. But I think Antonio Brown, in terms of explosiveness, just blows Odell Beckham Jr. out of the water. It seems like his game speed is much faster. His moves are a lot crisper and cleaner. His ability to make plays down the field, I mean, Odell Beckham makes a spectacle out of a lot of his plays, but Antonio Brown, I think, is just much more consistent and gets it done at a higher, he executes a lot better in his playmaking abilities than I feel Odell Beckham Jr. does. The comparison between those two also goes to their issues both on and off the field, but we've already gone over that. So now it's time to look at what this offense would really be like with Antonio Brown in the fold. And it takes a wide receiver room who was solid. I mean, Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf last year proved that they could get the job done in absence of Doug Baldwin, who I believe last season was the first year that he was retired and away from the team. Who, I mean, he was Russell Wilson's number one target for the better half of a decade. But anyways, Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf proved that they could be solid contributors to this offense. They lost Will Dissly again last season to injury, so I'm not sure how effective he's going to be going into the next season. But if they are missing something from him, they did bring in Greg Olsen, which was, in my opinion, a great addition. And in the wide receiver room, they drafted a couple guys. They drafted Freddie Swain from Florida, who's pretty much kind of like Tyler Lockett. He's kind of just a smaller guy who can blaze the field in about 5 seconds. But in terms of talent, DK Metcalf is probably the most talented guy. I mean, he's bigger than all the receivers. He's probably faster than all the receivers. He can jump higher than the rest of the receivers. But DK Metcalf is still raw in his pure wide receiving ability. He's still raw in his route running, his ability to make plays after the catch. He's a really raw talent at the wide receiver position, and they really need a guy in that wide receiver room who consistently on a snap-by-snap basis is going to be a threat to be able to get open down the field and even get open in the short and intermediate game. And Antonio Brown is the perfect guy for that. Like I said, Antonio Brown has demonstrated one of the best combinations of elusiveness and great technique that I've really seen out of any wide receiver, really ever in my lifetime. So a guy like that going to Russell Wilson is the most amazing quarterback that I have seen at being able to get out of the pocket and be able to maneuver the defense with his eyes and be able to make plays down the field when everything has broken down. So yeah, with those two generational type talents at their position, I don't see a reason as to why this move couldn't work for Seattle. Seattle has also proven over the years that they can take names who have seemed to have some struggles either off the field or on the field. That it failed in their last reclamation project with Josh Gordon. The situations are much different between Josh Gordon and Antonio Brown, but it still is a situation in terms of having a guy who's had issues off the field and has had trouble staying on the field the past 15 months. But again, I believe it really could be a move that puts favor in Antonio Brown's side. You know, if he were to make it through a year with the Seattle Seahawks, even 1 to 2 seasons with the Seahawks, having no trouble, having no problems surface about his name while he's in Seattle, that's going to do wonders for him and probably give him another contract with another organization. And it bodes well for the Seahawks because if they do think that they need to go into a rebuilding project and look for life after Russell Wilson and Bobby Wagner, there's a possibility that this leaves them open to not only getting as much out of Russell Wilson as possible, but it still leaves them with the possibility to rebuild for the future once they feel like it's time to do so. So with all of that being said, that's going to be the video for me. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you leave a comment down below why you liked the video. Make sure you like the video. If you didn't like the video, then make sure you hit the dislike button. Any feedback from you guys at this point is much appreciated. Again, I hope you like the video. If there's anything you think I forgot to talk about, make sure you leave a comment down below. And I try to get back to as much of you guys as possible. Again, with all that being said, that's going to be from me. Hope you have a good rest of your day or night whenever you're watching this, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.